Welcome to the Data Product Management in Action podcast, created and executive produced by me, Scott Hirleman, and brought to you by Soda, your best friend in data quality and contracts tooling. We created this podcast to serve as a place for actual practitioners bringing product management practices to data, whether that is to AI and ML, data products, platforms, or everything else in data, right? And it's to dig into the nitty-gritty of product management in data, but in fun and dynamic conversations. It's not just lift and shift from software product management. We have a great set of hosts for you that are also practitioners, so they can really get into those specifics and dive deep and get you the information you want to know rather than just high level, here is what a data product is. This is about cutting through the noise of data product management to drive towards actionable insights, hence the actual podcast name, Data Product Management in Action. So sit back and enjoy another awesome conversation.
Hey everybody, this is Laconia from Data Product Management in Action, and I'd like to introduce you to one of our special hosts, Nick Zervoudis. I asked Nick some questions so we can learn some more about him. So Nick, can you give a quick introduction about yourself and your career background?
Hi, my name is Nick Zervoudis, and I'm the head of products for data and AI at CKDelta.
How did you get into working with product management in data and data product?
I love this question because I think the answer is quite funny. By accident, I guess. I started off working as a consultant in a very kind of data-focused startup/consultancy. At the beginning, it was just me and the CEO. Over time, we started hiring more people and people that were maybe more qualified and more technical than me, that PhDs in math and masters in physics. So I was doing this kind of weird everything else sort of role. I was the one speaking to the client. I was creating the presentations. I was translating between the people with the PhDs in mathematics and the people that hadn't done any numbers-related work in 20 years. And for a long time, we were all thinking, what exactly is Nick doing? And I still remember one day my CEO walked up on my desk, dumped 3 books about product management and said, I found out what you are. You're a product manager. And so I started reading those books and they're really resonating. I was thinking, oh, wow, yes, that is exactly the kind of work I'm doing. And if it's not the work I'm doing today, it's the work I want to be doing. So long story short, I got into being a product manager, or I started thinking of myself as a product manager after I'd spent about a year doing that work at the intersection of customer, tech, data, business. And I've not regretted it ever since.
Explain a little more about your data product journey and current situation. Are you working on core data, the platform, as a self-service PM, or anything?
Yeah, so I basically have 2 jobs at the moment, all within the same company. And a little bit like the company I work for does 2 slightly distinct things. I work for CKDelta. We're a very small company that's part of a very large conglomerate. And the conglomerate owns companies like telecoms, utilities, retailers, pubs, real estate, container ports. And half of what we do is about being a little bit like an internal consultancy for those sister companies, because we're data and AI experts. And we'll kind of go in, and I'll be a sort of AI and data strategy consultant that'll go in, do opportunity discover, see where is it that data or machine learning can move the needle, and then start designing the different projects or products that we should develop together with those sister companies. And then the other job is more traditional product management, where we do data monetization. So, for example, I look after a portfolio of data products that are based on the telecom sister companies in our group. We take the data from the cell network and package it up into products that are about telling customers in a very aggregated and privacy-safe way, where are people going, where are they coming from, what are their demographics, so you can use it for retail planning or marketing or demand forecasting and a lot of other things. And so those products, the telco ones, I'd say it's more of a core product role rather than a platform or a self-service one. And then for the more like consulting type work, it kind of depends. It can be a bit of everything, but it's all sort of 0 to 1 product development that starts looking like a consulting project at the beginning and over time turns into either data products that we build and maintain as CKDelta or that we hand over to our sister companies. And what we try and do is take those learnings and then apply them either to building products for other sister companies that do the same thing, like different utilities around the world, or in other cases, even external companies that, the group doesn't compete with directly, and so it's kind of safe for us to sell to externally as well.
Are you working on external versus internal facing product?
Yeah, so it's mostly external, but then there's some products that you can define as internal depending on how you look at it, because we are part of the conglomerate. So in that sense, it's internal work when we work with sister companies. But then again, it is external in the sense that often they pay hard cash for it. It's not the same as going to a different department within your organization, but it's a slightly gray area.
What do you consider big successes in your career?
I really like this question. I'll give you my top three. Number one is figuring out my job title, like what I mentioned earlier. And, jokes aside, I found it really, really valuable getting that sort of sense of professional identity. It was useful to counter imposter syndrome, where I was thinking, what the hell am I doing here, surrounded by all these super technical ex-scientist people? But also figuring out, like, what is it I need to learn? What kind of direction do I need to take to advance my career? What are the sort of objectives I should be setting for myself? Like that's a very personal success. It's not to do with the impact I've had, but I still think is super, super valuable. The second one, going back all the way to the beginning, like with the first one, is I'm still really proud of the work we did at QuantSpark. First company I joined, where I was the first employee. It wasn't really a company when I joined, and then when I left, it was about 30 of us, and they're still going strong. And I was recently chatting to someone that was there, and I know like some of the products that I helped design and ship all the way back in 2017 or 2018 are still being used by our clients, which is quite cool. And that's why I really like the idea of product management, because unlike traditional consulting, you don't just do the work, deliver a report, and then nothing sort of really happens off the back of what you've done. I really like that. And then lastly, we did this really big project last year that was challenging but super cool with one of the container ports that's part of our group. And without going into too much detail, the long story short is we helped them identify a number of not too complicated, but super valuable and kind of revenue generating initiatives for data and machine learning that can really generate, even just for that one port, an 8 or 9 figure sum over the next 5 years or so. And I got to present that to the CEO of the parent company for all the European ports. And he called it a no-brainer that we should move forward. That was both personally very gratifying, but it's also just super exciting to know that you can help, advance the efficiency of the world's supply chain by a pretty meaningful percent, given how many ports we own around the world. Those are my top 3 that I can think of off the top of my head.
What's the hardest thing you've had to learn?
Good question. If you asked me a few years ago, I'd tell you about, specific technical concepts, how to learn them, how to figure out how to explain them to others. But to be honest, especially the more time passes, the more the answer to this question becomes just learning how to work with people, that are maybe just a little bit difficult because of their personality. Maybe they're difficult because you just have different incentives. Like they don't share the goals that you have, but somehow you need to bring them along. Maybe they're used to working in a particular way. And other times they just don't trust you. They see you as either just another suit, just another consultant, just another tech hype that's going to come and go just as quickly. And that's the sort of thing that I've really focused on getting better, and also staying humble. Like I would never say, oh, I am excellent at this now, I don't need to try and improve. I don't need to assess like, oh, why did that meeting not go as well as we would have wanted? And then the tough thing is, every time you've learned it, you then go to a different team, different organization, and you need to kind of relearn it all along because everyone ticks a little bit differently. You can't just go, oh yeah, this guy is the same as John from my last company. I'm just going to kind of copy paste the approach. Whereas you would do that much more with things like code and data. So that's the hardest thing I think I'm still learning, and I don't think I'll ever stop learning, working with people.
Anything else you want to share with our listeners?
Well, I guess other than listening to all our podcast episodes, one thing that I think is worth calling out, when I first started being a data product manager, back when we didn't really call it a data product manager, we barely called it a product manager, I was finding it really hard to Google my problems. There were no resources. Everything I could find around product management was from B2C companies, maybe B2B SaaS. And so I was finding it really hard to just think, okay, but how do I take this and apply it to my context, what I'm doing? I was really feeling like a fake PM in that sense. And that's why I've joined this podcast team, but also why I've started creating more and more content to help others who are still in their early days of becoming a data product manager. Maybe they don't even have that job title yet, but indirectly they're forced to do that work. So I've started posting a lot on LinkedIn with things I've learned, and also more long-form pieces on my Substack newsletter, just because I know, one, now that we've learned these lessons, we should help others not have to have the same struggle and pay it forward, but also because it helps me iron out my learning and clarify my thinking. It's one thing to have the idea in your head or have learned something from just one project, and another to then generalize it and put it down in writing or create presentations and really figure out how can this become something that can inform a best practice for the industry for how we should do data product management. So yeah, if anybody wants to check those out or drop me a message and ask me other questions, I'm super open to meeting people that are also on this journey.
Thanks so much for listening. Hopefully you got some great actionable insights out of this episode. We're so excited to dig deeper into data product management and its many facets. If you want to engage more with the show, you can follow us on LinkedIn and check out Soda's website at soda.io for more related content around product management in data. And if you are a practitioner bringing product management practices to data and want to potentially be a guest, please check the show notes for a link to apply. And as always, we strongly encourage people from underrepresented groups in tech to apply. Much as I'm a handsome devil, we don't want all our guests only looking like me. So again, let's get excited for more digging into data product management in action.